The stiffness and meiosis results from blockade of the receptor in nasal blood vessels and in radial muscles of iris respectively. Then what happens? If you block the alpha adrenergic receptors, then intestinal motility is increased due to the partial inhibition of relaxant symptomatic influence. So the loose motion may also occur. Whereas sometimes the hypotension is produced by the blockers can reduce renal, what you call as the blood flow, and the glomerular filtration rate is reduced to the greater extent. And more complete reabsorption of the sodium and water occurs in the tubules, and ultimately this is resulting in sodium retention and expansion of the plasma or the blood volume, and concentration of contractions of the vas deferens and related organs which result in ejaculation are coordinated through the receptors, and alpha blockers can inhibit the ejaculation. That's how the science says. And the uses of the alpha blockers are pheochromocytoma. Pheochromocytoma, it's a chromaffin cell tumor of the adrenal medulla. Chromaffin cell tumor of the adrenal medulla. So pheochromocytoma, it's a tumor of the adrenal medullary gland which secretes lot of adrenaline and noradrenaline into the circulation. That's why the system is totally, it is more and more influenced by the adrenergic nervous system, and this is known as the pheochromocytoma. And the drugs that can be used are phenoxybenzamine, non-specific alpha receptor blocker, and pentolamine and prazosin alpha 1 specific. So these are the one which can be used to treat the pheochromocytoma. And another condition in which the alpha adrenergic blockers can be used is benign hypertrophy of the prostate. So this is the benign hypertrophy of the prostate is occurring in the most of the adults, male adults after 50 years of age, a common disorder, that's the benign hypertrophy of the prostate glands. So this causes obstruction in the urinary outflow and can be treated with alpha adrenergic receptor antagonists. And secondary shock also can be treated. Peripheral vascular diseases can also be treated. And CHF, many times the congestive heart failure, if it is originated from the cardiac side, cardiac problems, then this can be very effectively treated with that of the drug. Then,
Excuse me, sir.
yes,
Sir, please go with little slow, sir. We cannot getting what you are saying.
okay, no problem. Then the next is the beta adrenergic blocking drugs. So we have already learned that alpha adrenergic receptor stimulants and the blockers, beta adrenergic stimulants and also the blockers. And these drugs, especially the beta adrenergic drugs, inhibit adrenergic responses mediated through beta receptors. So wherever this B is there, please see that it is beta, not B. And all beta blockers are competitive antagonists. So you know what is the difference between the competitive and non-competitive antagonists. And the classification of beta adrenergic blocking agent is going to be like this. The first one is non-selective beta blockers. That means they are going to block the beta 1 and beta 2 type of the activity non-specifically. Both the beta 1 and beta 2 are being acted by these specific drugs. And there are once again three classification A, B and C. The A is without intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. That's one. And the examples of without intrinsic sympathomimetic action, that's the one of the classification. And the propranolol, sotalol and timolol, all these are the classical example. And the B is with intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. The example is Pindalol. Pindalol is a drug which causes with intrinsic sympathomimetic activity, and the C is with additional alpha blocking property apart from this beta 1, the labetalol and carvedil. These are the example. Whereas some of the cardioselective beta 1 blockers are there, and very commonly these are used in the hypertension condition. Very commonly these drugs are prescribed for the hypertension patients. The examples are, so please remember that the metoprolol, any alols are the beta blockers, and selective and non-selective are there. So the cardio selective, very specifically, they are going to block the beta receptors of the heart. So because of this thing, the force of contraction, the what you call as the duration of contraction, everything is going to be decreased. That's what the metoprolol. Atenolol is a very common drug. It is of course still a very long time it is being used, and acebutolol and bisoprolol and esmolol, betaxolol, and then celiprolol, nebivolol. All these lols are these cardio-selective beta 1 type of the receptor antagonists. So they are very commonly used to treat the hypertension, especially the increased blood pressure in the patients. And the what happens, especially if you use a selective beta adrenergic antagonist and non-selective beta adrenergic antagonist. So the first action is on the heart. Let us see what happens. Propranolol decrease heart rate because it is going to act on beta 1 type of the receptor and the force of the contraction. That means the inotropic and chronotropic effect. Force of contraction and heart rate both are decreased, and the cardiac output is also decreased if you administer the propranolol to a patient. Then propranolol abbreviates refractory period of myocardial fibers and decrease automaticity and the rate of diastolic depolarization. So this is also another action. Means the adrenergic agonists, like many drugs, including the adrenaline, they are going to do the opposite action, whereas these drugs are going to block the action of the adrenaline on such beta 1 type of the receptor. And another example is the propranolol blocks cardiac stimulation action of the adrenergic drugs, but not of the digoxin, methoxyxanthine and glucagon, because these are all acting in a different pattern, especially digoxin, xanthine are the drugs, xanthine derivatives are the drugs which are going to inhibit the cyclic phosphodiesterase enzyme, and the cyclic KMP will be increased, and accordingly it is going to act on the heart. And also glucagon is it's a hormone that's going to release convert the glycogen to glucose. And the effect of beta adrenergic receptor blocker propranolol, it blocks vasodilatation and fall in BP. It is going to dilate the vesicle and the blood pressure will be totally being down, and isoprenaline and enhanced rise in the BP caused by adrenaline. So isoprenaline, a non-selective beta 1 receptor agonist. So the isoprenaline induced the increase in the BP will fall if you use propranolol. And the respiratory tract, propranolol increases bronchial resistance, because it's going to act on the beta 1 type of the receptor, and the bronchial resistance by blocking beta 2 type of the receptor, especially bronchi, beta 2 type of the receptor. So increases bronchial resistance. So that's why the constriction occurs instead of the relaxation. So relaxation will occur by the beta 2 adrenergic receptor blocker, a very specific blocker. And the metabolic pathway, the propranolol blocks adrenergically induced lipolysis and consequent increase in plasma free fatty acid levels and plasma triglyceride level and the LDL HDL ratio is increased during propranolol therapy. So the patient who is taking the propranolol should always be cautioned that if you estimate the triglyceride level, the low density lipids and high density lipids both will be increased during the propranolol therapy. And the action of these drugs on the skeletal muscles. So the propranolol inhibits the adrenergically provoked tremor, especially adrenergically provoked tremor. And these drugs many times are going to act on the heart in a very specific manner, especially through the beta 2 type of the receptor. So it tends to reduce exercise capacity by attenuating the beta 2 mediated increase by blood flow to the existing muscle, exercising muscle, as well as limiting glycogenolysis and lipolysis. All these things are going to happen, and especially on the eye, what happens if you install the propranolol and some other beta blockers reduces secretion of the aqueous humor. So the intraocular pressure is lower or intraocular tension is lower, and there is no consistent effect of the pupil size or accommodation, especially either mydriasis or miosis are not going to happen. Whereas the uterus, especially the relaxation of the uterus in response to isoprenaline and selective beta 2 adrenergic agonists is blocked by propranolol, terbutaline, etc. However, normal uterine activity is not affected. Only the uterus, the gravid uterus will have the relaxation. And the interactions, especially the interactions of these drugs, number one, additive depression of synovial conduction with digitalis and verapamil. Both the verapamil is a calcium channel blocker, whereas the digitalis is acting on the conduction system of the heart. And so additive depression of synovial node will occur if you use the beta adrenergic blockers. However, propranolol has been safely used in case of nifedipine, used with nifedipine, verapamil, all these are the calcium channel blockers. And propranolol delays recovery from hypoglycemia due to the insulin and oral anti-diabetics. So, but there is warning signs of hypoglycemia mediated through sympathetic stimulation, especially the tachycardia and tremor. So these are suppressed. So in some cases, BP rises due to the unopposed action of release of adrenaline, because adrenaline is released endogenously, and the beta adrenergic receptor, especially beta 1 type of the receptors, are suppressed by this blocker, and hence the adrenaline is going to act, and there is some cases BP is going to rise. Phenylephrine, ephedrine, and other agonists which are acting on the beta adrenergic receptors in cold remedies can cause marked rise in BP due to blockade of sympathetic vasodilatation. So the many times when you are using phenylephrine, ephedrine, and other agonists, the cold remedies, in presence of the cold remedies, can cause marked rise in the BP due to blockade of the sympathetic vasodilatation. That is understand. And the interactions continued. The indomethacin and this is the drug interaction, means indomethacin and NSAIDs attenuate the anti-hypertensive action of beta blockers. NSAIDs and indomethacin, especially non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents. And cimetidine, of course, now it's not available in the market and withdrawn from the market as it causes the gynecomastia and galactoria. It inhibits the propranolol metabolism. Cimetidine inhibits propranolol metabolism. However, the dose range of propranolol is wide and this may be not be clinically, it is significant, especially the cimetidine. And the propranolol retards lidocaine metabolism by reducing hepatic blood flow. And that's why we have to learn the drug interaction means if you are concomitantly taking two or more drugs, it may alter the effect of the another drug. That's known as the drug interaction. In between the drugs, there is interaction may occur. That's how the propranolol increases bioavailability of the chlorpromazine by decreasing its first fast metabolism. So chlorpromazine is a drug very commonly used as an anxiolytic agent, centrally acting dopaminergic receptor antagonist, especially the chlorpromazine, and the propranolol increases bioavailability of chlorpromazine by decreasing the first fast metabolism. That's the hepatobiliary circulation which enters the blood and the liver going to destroy certain drugs, and this is blocked by propranolol. So these are the drug interaction. That means propranolol and chlorpromazine should not be given together. So while prescribing a few of the drugs, you should remember all these drug interaction. And few of the other beta blocking agents, and especially we can say that cardioselective agent, especially beta 1 adrenergic receptor antagonists like metoprolol, atenolol, acebutol, bisoprolol and nebivolol. These are the drugs which are having very specific cardio selectivity, and these drugs are more potent in blocking beta 1 type of the receptor than the bronchial beta 2 type of the receptors. So sometimes selectivity is only relative and it's lost at high doses, it becomes non-selective also, and their features are lower what you call as propensity to cause bronchoconstriction, but even these drugs should usually be avoided in asthmatic patients, in chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder COPD patients. So in them the situation is getting aggravated, should be usually avoided, and less interference with carbohydrate metabolism and less inhibition of the glycogenolysis during hypoglycemia, and it's also safe in case of the diabetes mellitus. So the metoprolol, atenolol, acebutol, bisoprolol, and all these are safe in the diabetic patients who are also taking some other drugs, and it's not going to cause the changes in the glucose metabolism. And some of the partial agonist intrinsic sympathomimetics action like pindolol, celiprolol, isobutyl, etc. They have got partial agonistic action especially, and these drugs themselves activate beta 1 and beta 2 receptor submaximally, especially. So few of the drugs, please remember that pindolol, celiprolol and acebutol. The benefits of this property are once again controversial. Whether they are acting on both on beta 2 and beta 1 is still yet to be examined. And the bradycardia and depression, bradycardia and depression of the contractibility at rest are not prominent, but exercise tachycardia is blocked. Exercise tachycardia may be preferred in those prone to severe bradycardia with low or cardiac presence. And this withdrawal is less likely to exacerbate hypotension or angina pectoris. There is a cardiac pain. Continued agonistic action of the beta receptors prevents development of the super sensitivity of the other drugs, and no suitable for, it is not suitable for secondary prophylaxis of myocardial infarction.